I am coming in to the Chiefs table, dressed in a full tuxedo, holding a giant tray with one of those huge silver domes. And I put it on the table, and I unveil it. And you know what it says? Chiefs might miss the playoffs. And I lay it right there on the table. And Andy Reid's like, oh! And Nick Wright's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is on the table. Well, it is, gentlemen. And here's why. When you look at that schedule, it seems fine. Seems like, oh, those seems like hard teams. But I did a nice graphics job with Dusty here and Ermacher and Hubs. I said, can we put some green arrows on every team that got better? How many would we get? Would we get maybe one or two? Oh, no. It's a plethora. Well, the Broncos got Russ and Devontae Adams. The Chargers got better. Jacksonville spent hundreds of millions of dollars getting free agents. The Titans have got Derrick Henry back. Oh, the Rams. Who did the Rams just get? Like, oh my goodness, there's come Bobby Wagner. Seahawks down, so that's a W for you. Good. Bills got better. They got Von Miller. Oh, then you got, let's look at your away games. Getting a lot of the same teams. Davis Mills gave him a question mark. Colts and Matt Ryan. Yeah, I think they're better. I don't think Matt Ryan loses that game in Jacksonville and boots him out of the playoffs. 49ers, they're going to be good. I just don't know how good because I don't know if I believe in Trey Lance. Cardinals, I just put a little picture of Kyler Murray there. Not because he's short, just because he's very good in the beginning of the season, not so good late in the season. So if you have that game early, I think that's going to be tricky for you. Bengals got a brand new offensive line. They're going to be better. And then Tom Brady, retired, unretired, he's always going to be good. So that is 100 green arrows. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, if they were on there, would be a big red arrow down because they lost the most dynamic playmaker in the entire National Football League. And maybe you don't think it's a big deal, Nick. Maybe for the past 2 years I've been on this show, you've been lying. Every time you talk about how good the Chiefs are, you're always mentioning how great Tyreek Hill is. Who's going to guard Tyreek Hill? No, what are you going to do with Tyreek Hill, Wild? Well, now that's gone. Yeah. So, yes, I think it's on the board. I think it's on the table, and I'm putting a nice, delicious thing of cranberry sauce right next to it. So it says Chiefs miss the playoffs, perhaps, and then I put some cranberry sauce right next to it on the table.
Okay, so listen.
Bon appetit.
A lot of things are on the board. Wilds, real quick, because the Rams won the Super Bowl and you said they got better. Do you think it's on the board, or is it on the board? The Rams missed the playoffs. I just want to know what on the board means because I understand you don't want to predict the Chiefs.
I've looked at the board. It is not on the board. It's like a game show.
Okay, not on the board. Okay, so that's good. So we're using the genesis of this segment is Vegas win totals. So I will go right back to Vegas, where Vegas says the Chiefs have the exact same odds to win their division as the Rams do to win theirs, and better odds to win the Super Bowl and better odds to be in the Super Bowl than the Rams. So Vegas and you, there's a disconnect there in some regard, and I think I've determined why there's a disconnect. Because I also can haphazardly put green arrows on things. So can Billy and Russie, your wonderful children. They do it on the walls at times, I would imagine. It doesn't necessarily mean you should follow them to your own demise. So let's just break down a few of these that I find particularly galling.
Sure.
The Titans were the 1 seed last year. They had the best record in the AFC. You think they are going to be better than that? You think they got better? Okay, that's good to know. The Bucks, you said, you were like, oh, Bucks green arrow. How'd they get better? They got Tom Brady back. Listen, earlier in the show, I forgot the Colts traded for Matt Ryan, so I do forget some things. Did Tom Brady play for the Bucks last year? I think he did.
He got to
I'm not certain. Someone fact check me. I'm not sure why that makes them better. But the real obvious tell here that this is a disingenuous, fraudulent, nonsense waste of everyone's time. I can't believe you made 3 separate producers make this for you.
I know.
Is that you have a question mark over the Niners. The Niners are going to be not starting your beloved Jimmy Garoppolo. And you have spent the better part of 2 years, as long as I've been talking about Tyreek Hill, you've been talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. So you actually think they got worse, yet you have a question mark there. And I could go further on the nonsense here. You have a question mark over the Texans. The Bengals are better, you're saying, even though they made the Super Bowl. But that's not the point. The point is this. This schedule is incredibly difficult. But the point is, in the AFC West, everyone has the same schedule, except the Bengals, Bills, Bucks, 3 tough games, are the Chiefs' strength of schedule games. So, for example, the Chargers, instead of playing the Bengals, are going to be playing, I think, the Browns. We'll see if Deshaun Watson's there. They'll be playing, instead of Buffalo, the Patriots, who I'm told are frisky. And in Tampa's division, I think they'll be playing, is it New Orleans or Atlanta? I don't have the schedule off the top of my head. So that is a slightly easier schedule for the Chargers, those 3 games. But the difference is, those teams have to play the Chiefs. You know who the Chiefs don't have to play? The favorites in the AFC West twice a year, because they are the favorites in the AFC West twice a year. So the idea that Kansas City, which is the favorites to win their division, and has the 3rd best odds of any team in the league to win the Super Bowl, better odds than the Rams, are going to miss the playoffs. It's just, if Mahomes is healthy, no, they're not. And so it would be better if Wildes would actually say they're going to miss the playoffs like he did last year, but I get why he doesn't want to do that, Brew, because that was so mortifying for him last year. But he should do it again, because that's what he thinks.
All right, well, Nick, first let me define on the table. All right, when I say on the table, I don't mean it in some, anything can happen. You never say never.
Sure.
Any superstar could get injured, who knows. I don't mean it in that way. Yeah. I mean it in that it's a possibility. Now, I will likely not pick the Chiefs to miss the playoffs when we do our official picks. But, Nick, you saw that schedule, and you bring up a good point. The entire division is going to have a tough schedule. But that schedule is monstrous. I counted 3 easy games. Seattle, Jacksonville, and Houston. That's it. Every other weekend, they are going to be battling. All right, and it was hard for me to even think, could it be on the table that Mahomes, right in the middle of his prime, could miss the playoffs? I do think he has GOAT potential. I do think he's the best quarterback in the league. Does that even happen? Is that even possible? Yeah, it is. Because Peyton Manning missed the playoffs twice in his first 4 years. So that's after he had been to the playoffs. Tom Brady missed the playoffs once, right after he led the Patriots to the Super Bowl. Now, granted, he wasn't the Tom Brady we all knew, but he still was a very good quarterback who had led them to a Super Bowl and really turned that team around. Aaron Rodgers in 2018 started all 16 games with Mike McCarthy and missed the playoffs. So it does happen to great quarterbacks. We saw Deshaun Watson have a horrible season win-loss wise in Houston in his last time he played. So I'm not predicting that. But Nick, what I think could be possible is not 6-10, not a horrible record for the Chiefs, but a 9-8 where you barely miss it. Because I don't think right now that I'm picking them to win that division, Wildes. I think I'm looking at them as a wild card. And so a 9-8, 10-7 might probably get you in, I guess. But I could see them being right there on the cusp of missing or making the playoffs.
I agree. So Nick, if we look at that schedule again, what Broussard calls easy games, I call exhale games. Like when the Patriots play the Jets, for me, it's an exhale game. It's a get-right game. It's like, it's a nice 1 o'clock game. It's like, all right, we can just relax a bit. It's the Jets. I think you guys have it doubly hard because I still think you've got a big target on your back for the mighty Chiefs. Just like we've seen the people wanting to go after the Warriors and now people want to go after the Patriots a little bit. I think now people want to go after the Chiefs. And for every other game, that's going to be like, hey, you know what?
Why?
Let's go out and try to beat the Chiefs. I think it's a big game for you because you have some historical.
Why?
Because you are historic. You were a good team, just like the Patriots were a good team. Just like Steve Kerr said people wanted to beat up on the Warriors last year. Like there's a little bit of get
Nick,
back
you
there.
Know he's
you guys
right.
running up the score and doing sidearm throws and doing wacky stuff. I think people are upset about that.
Of course he's right that the Chiefs are a circle game for every opponent. But he's right because he's so wrong. Yes, of course they're a circle game because they are still considered, if not the best team in the AFC, the clear-cut second best team in the AFC. You can't cut it both ways. You can't be like, oh, everyone gets up for the Chiefs and they're going to miss the playoffs and they stink. It makes no sense. Yeah. See, here's the thing. And this year, I'm not talking to Brew. I'm not talking to Wilds. I'm not talking to Jenna. I'm talking directly to you, the viewer, to America. I get painted unfairly as some wild-eyed Kansas City homer when what is actually happening is I happen to work with such an illogical, crazy-brained guy when it comes to this one thing. I am forced to just be like, well, they're literally the favorites. And I don't think a team that has the best coach and the best quarterback, bar none in the division, is going to, miss the playoffs. That I have the outrageous opinion that the Chiefs aren't going to finish 8th in the conference or worse. It's like, oh, what a homer. It's literally what Vegas agrees with, what anyone, and here's the last part. It's what the smart part of Wild's brain agrees with. Because the part of Wild's brain that's like, oh, teams get up for the Chiefs. Why do they get up for the Chiefs? Because they're awesome, but they're not awesome. They used to be awesome. They played in the second to last game of the year last year, but that's the used to be. It doesn't even make sense. So that's fine. I'm good. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the Patriots dynasty gap year and the Chiefs to miss the playoffs for the second straight year. Problem is, they played in the AFC Championship game last year. After 3-4, after just as brutal of a schedule, they played in the AFC Championship game last year.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.